For thousands of years, ancient civilizations grew gardens that doubled as pharmacies. They didn't have microscopes. They didn't have clinical trials. They just paid attention. They watched which plants healed wounds, which ones brought down fevers, which ones kept people alive through brutal winters. And when modern chemistry finally caught up, when we could actually identify the molecules inside these plants, something remarkable happened. The science confirmed almost everything they knew. Today I'm going to show you 15 of those plants, 15 species that ancient cultures relied on for medicine, that peer-reviewed research has now validated, and here's the part I love most, that you can grow in your own garden. Plants like garlic, which produces allicin, a compound more powerful than many antibiotics. Turmeric, containing curcumin, which fights inflammation at the cellular level. And even artemisinin from wormwood, a discovery that literally won the Nobel Prize in medicine. Some of the chemistry inside these plants is going to genuinely surprise you. And think about this. The average American household spends over $1,200 a year on dietary supplements. Most of what's inside those capsules originally came from a plant. Some of it still does. What if you just grew the plants instead? Let's start with the ones that are probably already in your kitchen. Number 1, garlic. Here's something I want you to try the next time you're cooking. Crush a clove of garlic and then just let it sit on the cutting board for 5 to 10 minutes before you add it to the pan. That one change will completely transform what garlic does inside your body, and here's why. Inside an intact garlic clove, 2 separate compounds are stored in different compartments. One is called allium. The other is an enzyme called alliinase. They never touch each other while the clove is whole. But the moment you crush that clove, those compartments break open. The 2 compounds mix, and a chemical reaction begins. The product of that reaction is allicin, and allicin is the compound responsible for nearly all of garlic's medicinal properties. It's antibacterial, antiviral, antifungal, and it supports cardiovascular health. But here's the catch. Alliinase, the enzyme that makes the reaction happen, is destroyed by heat. If you crush garlic and throw it straight into a hot pan, the enzyme dies before it can finish its work, and you get almost no allicin. You get flavor, sure, but you lose the medicine. 5 to 10 minutes at room temperature is all it takes for the reaction to complete. After that, you can cook it however you like. The allicin is already formed. Ancient Egyptian laborers building the pyramids were given garlic as part of their daily rations, not for flavor, for endurance and disease prevention. They didn't know about allicin. They just knew it worked. And from a growing perspective, garlic is one of the best investments in any garden. One bulb breaks into 8 or more cloves. Each clove planted in fall becomes a full new bulb by summer. Organic garlic sells for $5 a pound or more at the grocery store. A single planting pays for itself many times over. Hardy in USDA zones 3 through 9, garlic also works as an excellent companion plant that naturally repels aphids and other garden pests. Number 2, olive. The olive tree has been cultivated for at least 6,000 years across the Mediterranean, and olive oil has been used as food, fuel, and medicine for just as long. Ancient healers poured it directly onto wounds, and modern chemistry has shown us exactly why that worked. Extra virgin olive oil contains a compound called oleocanthal. In 2005, a research team published a study in the journal Nature showing that oleocanthal inhibits the same cyclooxygenase enzymes, COX1 and COX2, that ibuprofen targets. It works through the same anti-inflammatory pathway. The researcher who discovered this, Gary Beauchamp, actually noticed it because fresh olive oil produces the same stinging sensation in the back of the throat that ibuprofen does. That sting is the oleocanthal activating the same receptors. Now, 50 grams of extra virgin olive oil per day, that's about 3.5 tablespoons, gives you roughly 10% of the ibuprofen dose used for pain relief. That's not a replacement for medication, but as a daily dietary habit sustained over years, it may help explain why Mediterranean populations have lower rates of heart disease and neurodegenerative conditions. And here's the exciting part for gardeners. You can grow olives at home. If you're in zones 9 through 11, they thrive in the ground. But even in colder climates, the Arbequina variety does beautifully in a large container. Bring it indoors for winter. You won't produce enough for oil pressing, but you can absolutely grow enough for cured table olives, and the tree itself is gorgeous. Number 3. Turmeric. Curcumin, the active compound that gives turmeric its golden color, is one of the most studied anti-inflammatory compounds in modern research. Clinical trials published in journals like Phytomedicine and the Journal of Medicinal Food have shown curcumin can reduce inflammation markers as effectively as some pharmaceutical drugs, but without the side effects. The challenge with turmeric has always been bioavailability. Your body doesn't absorb curcumin well on its own, but traditional Indian cooking solved this thousands of years ago by combining turmeric with black pepper. Piperine, the compound that makes black pepper hot, increases curcumin absorption by up to 2,000%. For growing, turmeric is a tropical plant that needs consistent warmth and humidity. If you're in zones 9 through 11, you can grow it outdoors year-round. In colder climates, grow it in containers and bring it inside for winter. Plant rhizomes in spring, after soil temperatures reach 68 degrees. Harvest in fall when the leaves begin to yellow. One rhizome planted in spring can yield 1 pound or more of fresh turmeric by harvest time. Number 4. Grapes. The skin of red grapes contains a compound called resveratrol, and resveratrol has become one of the most studied plant compounds in longevity research. In 2003, David Sinclair's lab at Harvard identified resveratrol as an activator of a family of proteins called sirtuins, sometimes described as longevity genes. Sirtuins regulate cellular aging, DNA repair, and inflammation. In yeast, activating these proteins extended lifespan by roughly 30%. In mice on high-calorie diets, resveratrol improved health outcomes and survival. Now, I want to be honest here. The human research is still catching up. The concentrations of resveratrol used in lab studies are much higher than what you'd get from eating grapes or drinking wine. But the broader pattern is clear. Grape compounds, including resveratrol and oligomeric proanthocyanidins from the seeds, have consistent cardiovascular benefits in human studies: lower blood pressure, reduced inflammation markers, improved blood vessel function. And from a garden perspective, grapevines are one of the most productive perennial plants you can grow. A single mature vine produces 15 to 30 pounds of fruit per year. They grow in zones 4 through 10. Muscadine varieties are ideal for southern climates and actually contain some of the highest resveratrol levels of any grape. Concord is your go-to for northern gardens. Either way, you're looking at decades of harvest from one planting. Number 5. Pomegranate. Pomegranate juice has been measured to have 3 times the antioxidant activity of red wine and green tea. 3 times. That finding comes from a study published in the Journal of Agricultural and Food Chemistry that tested pomegranate juice using 4 different antioxidant measurement methods and compared it directly against both red wine and green tea infusions. The compounds responsible are called Punica ligands, a type of L-gitanin that's unique to pomegranate, and they're concentrated in the white membrane and the rind, the parts that usually end up in the compost bin. For your garden, pomegranates are hardy to zone 7. If you're in zone 6, look for the Russian variety Salavatski, which handles colder temperatures. They're self-fertile, so you only need one tree. They fruit within 2 to 3 years of planting, and they do extremely well in containers if you need to bring them inside for winter. Number 6. Fig. The fig tree produces a proteolytic enzyme called ficin in its latex, the milky sap you see when you break a stem. Ficin breaks down proteins. It's in the same family of enzymes as papain from papaya and bromelain from pineapple. Ancient healers used fig poultices on wounds and boils, and the science behind that makes sense. A proteolytic enzyme applied to dead tissue would help clean the wound and fight bacterial infection. Figs are also one of the highest plant-based sources of calcium, and they're loaded with prebiotic fiber that feeds beneficial gut bacteria. But here's what I really love about figs from a gardening perspective. They are one of the easiest fruit trees for beginners. The Chicago hardy variety survives zone 5 winters. Figs fruit on new wood, so even if the top of the tree dies back to the ground in a harsh winter, it regrows from the roots and still produces fruit that same season. They do great in containers. They're forgiving. They're generous. If you've never grown a fruit tree before, start with a fig. Now, those first 6 plants cover your heart, your gut, your immune system, and your inflammation response, and every single one produces food you can harvest. But this next group is where the chemistry gets really interesting. Small plants with massive biochemistry. Number 7, ginger. Ginger contains over 400 bioactive compounds, but the most studied are gingerols and shogols, the compounds responsible for its distinctive heat. These molecules work as powerful anti-inflammatory agents and have been shown in clinical trials to reduce nausea more effectively than many pharmaceutical anti-nausea drugs. A 2014 systematic review published in the British Journal of Anesthesia confirmed ginger's effectiveness for preventing postoperative nausea and vomiting. Ginger also contains compounds that inhibit cyclooxygenase enzymes, the same pathway that ibuprofen and aspirin target, but with additional benefits for digestive health that synthetic drugs don't provide. Growing ginger follows the same pattern as turmeric. It's tropical but adaptable to container culture. Plant rhizomes in spring. Harvest in fall after 8 to 10 months. In zones 9 to 11, it can stay in the ground year-round. Colder climates require container growing with winter protection. Fresh ginger from your garden has a completely different flavor profile than store-bought. More complex, less fibrous, with higher concentrations of bioactive compounds. Number 8, mint. Menthol, the primary compound in mint, does something fascinating in your body. It activates cold-sensing receptors and inhibits pain receptors at the same time. That's why mint feels cool on your skin, even though it doesn't actually change your temperature. It's tricking your nervous system into perceiving cold while simultaneously dampening pain signals. And the medical research on peppermint is remarkably strong. Multiple randomized controlled trials, the gold standard of medical research, have shown that enteric-coated peppermint oil capsules reduce the symptoms of irritable bowel syndrome as effectively as pharmaceutical antispasmodic drugs. There's also research showing spearmint tea can reduce androgen levels, with significant hormonal changes measured in just 30 days of regular consumption. Growing mint is absurdly easy. It's a perennial in zones 3 through 11. But I need to give you one serious warning. Mint is aggressive. It spreads by underground runners, and it will take over everything if you let it. Grow it in a dedicated pot or a contained bed with buried barriers around the edges. Treat it like it wants to conquer your garden, because it does. Number 9, cilantro and coriander. Here's something that trips people up. Cilantro and coriander are the same plant. The leaves are called cilantro. The dried seeds are called coriander, which means you get 2 completely different harvests from one planting. Coriander seeds contain a compound called linalool that has demonstrated anti-anxiety properties in animal studies, comparable to diazepam, but without the addictive properties. And here's one that genuinely fascinates me. Coriander is one of the few known foods that actively chelates heavy metals from body tissues. It binds to mercury, lead, and aluminum and helps escort them out. The growing challenge with cilantro is that it bolts fast in heat. It wants to flower and go to seed the moment temperatures climb. Succession planting every 2 to 3 weeks provides a continuous supply of leaves. And when some plants inevitably bolt, let them. Those seed heads are your coriander harvest. The variety Santo is one of the slowest to bolt. Number 10, black cumin. This one surprises people. Nigella sativa, or black cumin, is a garden flower, typically grown purely for ornament. Those delicate blue-white blooms with the dramatic seed pods. But here's what you might not know. You're looking at one of the most studied medicinal plants on Earth. There are over 1,000 published studies on Nigella sativa and its active compound thymoquinone. The research spans blood sugar regulation, immune modulation, anti-inflammatory effects, and anti-cancer activity across multiple tumor types in laboratory studies. I want to be clear that the majority of this research is preclinical, meaning laboratory and animal studies. But the sheer volume of consistent findings has made this plant a serious subject of medical research. Growing it could not be easier. It's a direct sown annual. Plant seeds in spring after last frost. Full sun, well-drained soil. When the seed pods turn brown and papery, harvest them, crack them open, and collect the tiny black seeds inside. That's it. Zones 2 through 11. Number 11, hyssop. Hyssop contains 2 compounds called carvacrol and thymol. If those names sound familiar, it's because they're the same antimicrobial compounds found in oregano oil, which herbalists consider one of the most potent natural antibiotics. Thymol is so effective at killing bacteria that it's a primary active ingredient in Listerine mouthwash. The same compound that's been in your bathroom medicine cabinet has been growing in herb gardens for thousands of years. Hyssop also works as an expectorant. It breaks up mucus and clears respiratory congestion. European herbal tradition has used hyssop tea for bronchitis and chest colds for centuries. In the garden, hyssop is a beautiful perennial, hardy from zones 3 to 9. It grows about 2 feet tall, produces purple flower spikes that pollinators absolutely love, and it's drought-tolerant once established. Plant it at the edge of a raised bed or in an herb spiral. It earns its space as both medicine and companion plant. Number 12, mustard. When you crush or chew a mustard seed, an enzyme called myrosinase breaks down compounds called glucosinolates into active molecules called isothiocyanates. And these isothiocyanates do something remarkable inside your body. They activate what's called the phase 2 detoxification enzyme system in your liver. Think of your liver like a water treatment plant. Phase 2. Enzymes are the filters that neutralize potentially harmful compounds, including carcinogens, before they can damage your DNA. Multiple studies have confirmed that glucosinolates from the brassica family, which includes mustard, broccoli, cabbage, and kale. Upregulate these protective enzymes. Population studies consistently show that people who eat brassica-rich diets have lower rates of several types of cancer. And here's what makes mustard special for gardeners. It's a dual-purpose plant. You can grow it as a cover crop that suppresses weeds and improves soil biology, then harvest the greens for eating, and let some plants go to seed for your mustard harvest. Direct sow in early spring or fall. It's one of the fastest crops from seed to harvest, and it works as a companion plant that repels certain pests. Number 13. Lentils. Lentils are one of the most protein-dense plant foods on Earth. About 18 grams of protein per cooked cup. They're rich in folate, which is essential for DNA synthesis and repair. They contain highly bioavailable iron, and they're loaded with soluble fiber that feeds gut bacteria, lowers cholesterol, and stabilizes blood sugar like almost no other food can. And the way they stabilize blood sugar is worth understanding, because it applies to barley too. The soluble fiber in lentils forms a gel-like substance in your digestive tract. That gel slows down the rate at which glucose passes through the intestinal wall into your bloodstream. Instead of a sharp spike, followed by a crash, you get a slow, steady release of energy. Think of it like the difference between dumping a bucket of water onto a sponge versus slowly pouring it through a coffee filter. Same amount of water, completely different absorption rate. That's what soluble fiber does to sugar in your gut. They're rarely grown in home gardens, and honestly, they should be. Direct sow in early spring as soon as the soil can be worked. They don't transplant well, so sow them where they'll grow. Space them about an inch apart in rows. They grow to about 18 inches tall and don't need staking. Harvest when the pods turn brown and dry right on the plant. Pull the whole plant and hang it upside down in a dry place for a week. Then thresh the pods to collect the seeds. Simple to store, simple to cook. And here's the hidden bonus. Lentils are legumes, which means they fix nitrogen in the soil through a symbiotic relationship with bacteria called rhizobia that live on their roots. These bacteria pull nitrogen directly from the air and convert it into a form plants can use. So lentils aren't just feeding you, they're feeding your garden at the same time. When you pull the plants at harvest, leave the roots in the ground. That's free fertilizer for whatever you plant next. And at the grocery store, they're already one of the cheapest foods available. From your garden, they cost almost nothing. Number 14, barley. Barley contains a specific type of soluble fiber called beta-glucan, and beta-glucan does the same thing lentil fiber does, only more of it. It forms a gel in your digestive tract that slows glucose absorption and reduces cholesterol reabsorption. But barley has significantly higher concentrations of beta-glucan than oats, which is the grain that usually gets all the heart health credit. The evidence is so strong that the FDA has approved a specific health claim for barley and heart disease risk reduction. That kind of regulatory endorsement is rare. The FDA doesn't hand those out easily. Studies show barley can reduce LDL cholesterol by up to 15%. It improves blood sugar control in type 2 diabetics, and it significantly reduces hunger hormones, which means you naturally eat less without trying. For home growing, look for hulless varieties like Streaker, which don't require the de-hulling equipment that commercial barley does. You can grow barley as a winter cover crop, planting in fall for spring harvest, or plant in spring for a summer harvest. A 10 by 10 foot plot produces enough barley for regular use in soups, stews, and baking. And like lentils, it builds soil structure while it grows. The root system breaks up compacted ground, and the stubble adds organic matter when you turn it in. Number 15, Moringa. I need to be honest about moringa because the claims around this plant can get exaggerated. You'll see comparisons saying moringa has 7 times the vitamin C of oranges, 4 times the calcium of milk, 17 times more calcium, and so on. Those numbers come from comparing gram for gram dried moringa leaf powder against fresh fruit. And since drying removes all the water weight, the nutrients become concentrated. It's not a perfectly fair comparison. That said, even accounting for that, moringa's nutrient density is remarkable, and the compounds that make it genuinely interesting for health are the isothiocyanates, specifically moringin. These compounds suppress something called NF-κB, which is a master regulator of inflammation in the human body. Chronic inflammation drives conditions from arthritis to cardiovascular disease, and anything that modulates NF-κB activity is worth paying attention to. Now here's the growing surprise. Even if you live in a cold climate, you can grow moringa as an annual. It grows incredibly fast, up to 10 or 15 feet in a single warm season. In zones 7 and below, start seeds indoors about 6 weeks before last frost. Transplant after temperatures stay above 60 degrees Fahrenheit, and harvest leaves all summer. Treat it the way you'd treat basil. It won't survive your winter, but it doesn't need to. The leaves are the medicine, and you can dry them for year-round use. Number 16. Wormwood, Artemisia. This plant won the Nobel Prize. Not metaphorically, literally. In 2015, Chinese scientist Tu Youyou was awarded the Nobel Prize in Physiology or Medicine for discovering artemisinin, a compound extracted from sweet wormwood, Artemisia annua. In the 1970s, Tu was part of a secret military research project tasked with finding a treatment for malaria. After screening hundreds of traditional Chinese remedies, she kept returning to an ancient text from around 400 AD that described soaking sweet wormwood in cold water to treat intermittent fevers. The problem was her team's initial extracts didn't work consistently. Then Tu realized they were boiling the plant, which destroyed the active compound. She switched to a low-temperature extraction method. The results were 100% effective against malaria parasites in mice. Tu tested the compound on herself before giving it to patients. Today, artemisinin-based combination therapies are the primary treatment for malaria worldwide. They've saved millions of lives, and the compound comes from a garden plant. Artemisia absinthium, common wormwood, is a hardy perennial in zones 4 through 9. It's drought-tolerant, deer-resistant, and virtually unkillable once established. The silver-green foliage is beautiful in a garden border. It also works as a companion plant that repels many insect pests. You're probably not going to extract artemisinin in your kitchen, but growing this plant is a way of keeping one of the most important medicinal discoveries in modern history alive in your garden. Number 17. Raw honey. Now, honey isn't a plant, but it's made entirely from plants, and I couldn't leave it off this list. If you keep bees, or if you source raw, unfiltered local honey, you're accessing one of the most remarkable natural substances on Earth. Raw honey contains hydrogen peroxide, methyl glyoxal, and B-defensin-1, 3 separate antimicrobial compounds that work together. It also contains prebiotics that feed beneficial gut bacteria, and it has been shown in studies to speed wound healing when applied topically. But here's the critical point. It must be raw and unfiltered. Most commercial honey has been heated and ultra-filtered to the point where many of these compounds are degraded or removed. What you want is thick, cloudy, crystallizing on the shelf honey from a local beekeeper. That's the real thing. And if you have the space and the interest, keeping even a single hive connects you to every flowering plant in your garden in a way nothing else can. So here's the pattern, and this is the part that really gets me. Every single one of these plants produces its healing compounds, not for us, for itself. Allicin protects garlic from soil pathogens. Resveratrol protects grape skins from fungal attack. Curcumin helps turmeric resist oxidative stress. Glucosinolates are mustard's defense against being eaten by insects. Oleocanthal protects olive fruit from microbial damage. These plants built their own immune systems over millions of years of evolution, producing chemical weapons to survive. And when we eat them, we borrow those defenses. Think of it like this. Every herb in your garden is running its own tiny pharmaceutical lab, producing compounds that took nature millions of years to develop. And all you have to do is plant the seed, water it, and eat what it grows. And here's something I keep coming back to. We spend so much time and money looking for the next health breakthrough, the next supplement, the next superfood powder in a branded pouch. But the most thoroughly tested healing compounds on the planet are sitting in seed packets at your local garden center for $3. Garlic seed, mustard seed, a fig cutting. These aren't trends. They're not fads. They've been keeping people healthy for 3,000 years, and the chemistry holds up. You don't need all 17 of these plants. Start with 3 or 4 that match your climate and your cooking. A garlic bed planted in October, a fig tree in a container on your patio, an herb corner with mint and hyssop, and a patch of nigella for those beautiful black seeds. Maybe a grapevine trained along your fence. That's already a living pharmacy that keeps producing year after year, decade after decade. No prescriptions, no supplement bottles, just a garden doing what gardens have always done. So now you know the science behind 17 plants that have been healing people for thousands of years, and you know exactly how to grow them. Next week, I'm breaking down the soil biology that makes all of these plants produce even more of these protective compounds, because what's happening underground changes everything above it. Subscribe so you don't miss it. And if you want to go deeper on growing your own food, that video is on screen right now.